People always ask me, what is the secret to being a great communicator? And after thinking really long and hard about the answer to that question for many years, what I realized is that it's not just one thing that makes somebody a great communicator. It's a number of different things, a number of different foundational principles or understanding about human communication and human beings in general that make people better communicators. And as I started to think deeper about this and categorize these things, what I realized was that the answer to this was already laid out in something called NLP presuppositions. In fact, when I look at the top NLP, the top 20 NLP presuppositions, I realize that that right there is the answer to the question of what makes somebody a really good communicator. Because if you understand the top 20 NLP presuppositions, I can almost guarantee you that you will be leaps and bounds above other people when it comes to communication. So in this video today, I'm going to share the top 20 NLP presuppositions as it relates to human communication with you. By the way, my name is Paul Macetta, and I am a researcher in the field of human communication. So if you like learning about things related to human communication like NLP, then go ahead and consider subscribing. So what I'm going to share with you today is from a book of mine called The Black Book of Hypnotic Language Patterns. I will put a link in the description below to the book if you're interested in picking it up. I've made it dirt cheap. I've also put together a nice little bonus package in there. But for the purposes of today's video, we are going to go over the top 20 NLP presuppositions. And again, it's my belief that if you really understand the meaning of these presuppositions and you apply them in your life, the byproduct of that is that you will not only become a great communicator, but you'll be leaps and bounds ahead of the average person who doesn't understand them. So the first one is that everyone's doing the best they can with the resources they have available. So what this tells us is that people's actions are based on their current knowledge, skills, and emotional states. This promotes empathy and understanding, encouraging us to consider the context behind behaviors rather than judging them harshly. So for instance, a person struggling at work might lack proper training rather than motivation. So the thing here is that it's always easy for us as human beings to judge other people and say, you know what, that person's an idiot, or I can't understand why that person would say that or do that. And the reality is that that person in their mind, they are doing the best they can with what they have. Each one of us has different beliefs, thoughts, opinions, outlooks, frameworks that we use to make sense of the world. And regardless of how silly or irrational somebody might seem to you, they are actually probably functioning at their best with the resources that they have. The next one is that every behavior has a positive intention, so even actions that seem negative or harmful are driven by underlying positive intentions. Understanding these intentions helps in finding healthier ways to achieve the same goal. So for example, someone who interrupts others might be seeking validation or connection. So it's been said that even unless you're a sociopath, okay, let's take that out of the equation, but even people that commit really heinous crimes, what they find is that deep down inside, a lot of these people actually think that they are doing the right thing. So they think that there's a logical justification or cause for their behavior. So regardless of how wrong it might seem to us as outsiders looking in that person's mind, they have a legitimate reason for doing whatever it is that they did. Next one, this is a really big one, especially when it comes to communication, and that is that the meaning of communication is the response that you get. So this principle emphasizes that effective communication is measured by the reactions it elicits, not just the speaker's intentions. So if your message is misunderstood, it's because you made the person misunderstand it. So it's up to you to adjust your communication style. So for example, if your colleague misinterprets your feedback, you might need to clarify your points or use a different approach. So one thing that I want to make clear is that master communicators, just like masters in every other aspect of their life, take responsibility. They don't play victim. They don't blame other people. They take full responsibility and control over their lives. And so if something negative is taking place within the communication cycle, the master communicator owns that and says, well, what can I do to fix that problem? The next one is that there is no failure, there's only feedback. So mistakes and failures are viewed as opportunities for learning and growth. By seeing setbacks as feedback rather than failure, you continuously improve and adapt. So for instance, if a project doesn't succeed, analyzing what went wrong provides valuable insights for future efforts. This is especially true in the way that you communicate with yourself internally, right? Because there's different levels of communication. There's external communication, which is the communication we have with others, but then there's also internal communication, which is what we say to ourselves. And lots of times, especially if you're in business and you're an entrepreneur, you're going to experience setbacks and you're going to experience failure. It's part of the game. And I had to learn that it's a natural part of the process, and that failure just leads you closer to what actually works. It's just a part of the process. And as I spent more time becoming an entrepreneur and getting more experience, I realized that every time I started a new venture, if and when things went wrong within that venture or things happened that I wasn't necessarily anticipating, I remembered that this is part of the process and that failure is only really a form of feedback. The next one is that people have all the resources they need to succeed, and so this belief holds that individuals possess the internal resources required to achieve their goals. They may just need help accessing and utilizing them. So for example, a person struggling with public speaking might have the necessary confidence, but they need the guidance to bring it out. Number 6 is that the mind and body are part of the same system. So mental and physical states are interconnected, and changes in one can influence the other. This holistic view emphasizes the importance of addressing both aspects for overall well-being. So for instance, improving physical fitness can enhance mental clarity and vice versa. The next one, super important as it pertains to human communication, is that the map is not the territory. So people perceive the world through their own subjective experiences, which can differ from objective reality. This presupposition reminds us to respect others' perspectives and understand that our own perceptions are not absolute truths. So for example, two people might interpret the same event differently based on their backgrounds and beliefs. Number 8, if one person can do something, anyone can learn to do it. Skills and behaviors can be modeled and learned from others who have already achieved success. This principle promotes the idea that with the right approach and effort, anyone can acquire new abilities. So for example, if one person can learn to play the piano, others can too by following similar learning processes. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. Number 9, change is inevitable and constant. Embracing change as a natural part of life allows for continuous growth and adaptation. Recognizing the inevitability of change helps individuals remain flexible and resilient. For instance, adapting to new technologies can open up new opportunities for personal and professional development. I think a lot of times people fear change, they resist change, and a lot of times people simply just don't know how to deal with it. Like sometimes people experience change and they have like meltdowns, like they literally melt because of change. And what we have to realize is that change is a part of the human experience. It's a part of life. Everything is changing. Nothing is going to remain the same. I mean, not even your body. You are not the same person that you were a year ago or 5 years ago. You're certainly not the same person you were when you were born. You have a completely different body. I have a completely different body now at 45 years old than I did when I was 1 year old, right? And so, or when I was a year old, I should say. And so everything in life changes. And so the key is to not resist this or, get mad about it or let it get the better of you, but just to realize that it is a natural part of life. Number 10, this one is super important, and that is that we cannot not communicate. All behavior is a form of communication, whether verbal or nonverbal. So this presupposition highlights the importance of being aware of the messages we send through our actions and body language. So for example, silence or facial expressions can convey powerful messages, even without words. So another way of saying this is that you're always communicating something. So one of the first things that I teach my students when it comes to human communication is this presupposition that you're always communicating something. So if you really want to level up your communication skills, you need to be aware of that, and you need to say, okay, well, if I'm always communicating something, how can I be strategic about it? How can I be vigilant about it? How can I be intentional about what I want to communicate instead of just haphazardly communicating verbally and non-verbally with other people and not even realizing that it's happening? Number 11, people respond to their map of reality, not to reality itself. So again, people act based on their perception of the world, which can be shaped and altered. Understanding that people respond to their interpretations of reality rather than reality itself can improve empathy and communication. So for example, addressing someone's fears requires understanding their perspective, even if those fears seem irrational to others. Number 12, behind every behavior is a positive intention. This kind of circles back to an earlier one, that understanding the positive intention behind behaviors can help in finding more effective strategies to achieve in the same goal. So for example, a child acting out in school might be seeking attention because they feel neglected. Number 13, resistance is a sign of a lack of rapport. Building rapport can reduce resistance and enhance communication effectiveness. When people resist it, it often means they don't feel understood or connected. So for example, a sales pitch might fail if the salesperson hasn't built trust with the potential customer. Number 14, people have the capacity to change the way they think, feel, and behave. Everyone has the ability to alter their mental, emotional, and behavioral patterns. This belief in the potential for change supports the idea that with the right techniques, anyone can improve their lives. So for instance, cognitive behavioral therapy helps people change negative thought patterns. And I'll be honest with you, this is something that when I was younger, I really didn't understand. This whole concept of you can choose how you feel or how you respond to something was mind-blowing to me. I just felt like I try to live my life in a just way where I try to be diplomatic and polite and not offend other people. And so I feel like if someone does that to me, it's a direct violation to me, and I'm justified in being angry about it. So in other words, let's say, for example, someone stole my car and I flipped out about it. Well, this idea that I chose to flip out about the person stealing my car was something I could not wrap my mind around. I was like, no, somebody stole my car. That's why I'm flipping out. That's why I'm pissed off. I wouldn't have been pissed off if the person didn't steal my car. And while that may be true, I'm still choosing to be angry about that, no matter how justified it is. And so when you realize that you actually have the power to choose how you respond to things, it opens up a lot of doors in your life. And so recognizing that and understanding it, I'm not saying it's easy to do it, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Number 15, the most flexible element in a system will always have the most influence. So flexibility in behavior and thinking allows for greater influence and problem-solving capability. Being adaptable enables individuals to respond effectively to various situations. So, for example, a flexible manager can handle diverse team dynamics better than someone who can't. Number 16, every experience has a structure. So, understanding the structure of experiences can help in replicating or altering them for desired outcomes. By analyzing how experiences are constructed, we can change their impact. So, for example, breaking down the steps of a successful presentation can help replicate it in the future. Number 17, behavior and change are to be evaluated in terms of context and ecology. So consider the broad context and impact of behaviors and changes to ensure they are beneficial and sustainable. Evaluating actions within their larger environment helps ensure they are appropriate and effective. So, for instance, a business decision should consider its impact on employees, customers, and the community. Number 18, people are more than their behavior. Individuals are complex beings, and their worth is not solely defined by their actions. Recognizing this helps in seeing beyond the surface behaviors to understand the person as a whole. For example, a person's mistake does not define their entire character. Number 19, everyone is unique and has their own way of seeing the world. This goes back to the map is not the territory. Respecting and acknowledging individual differences enhances communication and understanding. Valuing diversity of thought and experience leads to richer interactions and solutions. So, for example, team projects benefit from a variety of perspectives. And number 20, people make the best choices available to them at the time. This presupposition suggests that individuals make decisions based on the best options they perceive are available to them at any given moment. Understanding this can foster compassion and patience, recognizing that people's choices are often limited by their awareness and circumstances. So at the core of this one is really, which circles back to some of the earlier ones, is that inherently people don't want to hurt themselves consciously. Now, again, if you have some underlying condition, some subconscious, deep-rooted issues, or you're a sociopath, that's a different story, and that requires medical attention. But normal functioning human beings, if there is such a thing, and myself included, right? If such a thing exists, human beings inherently do not want to hurt themselves. Inherently, we want to do what we think is beneficial and best. And so no matter how crazy, silly, or illogical a person's thoughts or behaviors may seem, in their core, a part of them believes that they are doing the right thing. And so if a person makes a decision or does something that seems foolish or irrational or illogical to you, to them, in that moment, it may have felt like that was the best option for them. Now, that's not to say that what they did was not illogical or irrational. It probably was, and the average person would probably see it that way. But in that moment, they don't. And so understanding this helps give you a bigger perspective when you communicate with others. So one of the keys to becoming a master communicator is being able to project yourself into the shoes of the other person to understand their perspectives, their thoughts, their outlooks, their opinions, their beliefs on certain things, so that you can communicate in the most effective and efficient way possible based on those things. These presuppositions really help you get clear on those things. And like I said, these 20, if you had to ask me, if you understood these 20 presuppositions, you are well on your way to becoming a master communicator, and you're certainly leaps and bounds above the average person. So once again, Like I said, you can grab my book, The Black Book of Hypnotic Language Patterns, and you're going to not only get all the presuppositions in there, you're going to get 101 hypnotic language patterns that you can use to influence and persuade other people. I put a link to it in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead, leave me a comment, give me a like, let me know what you thought, and if you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this.